Welcome back to a relaxed video on the weekend for NIO Stock. There's a lot to like about what happened last week, and so you can also hopefully like this video. And by the way, there's still 40% of people watching this video without being subscribed, so I'd like to change that. Please hit the subscribe button and so we can get into this video, which I think if you're invested in NIO you'll possibly like, because there's quite a few positives out there currently. And I'm usually not talking a lot about technicals and charts and stuff, because I'm rather an investor who's like, buying the stock on a fundamental analysis and then dollar cost averaging into it and just holding and not trading around a lot. But I think there's a couple of things to like about this chart currently here with NIO, and if fundamentals and the chart are certainly aligning, that's quite interesting because it's giving it more weight and argument, I would say. So we're looking at a logarithmic long-term chart here for NIO with the daily fluctuations. And as you can see, well, with this yellow line and then the white line here, this is the downward trend that we have been in almost 2.5 years, right? When it peaked at 65 USD in 2021 and then kept on trading in this downward trend. Found a bottom here at around 7 USD recently, and then we saw this breakout in July out of this downtrend. For the first time, a spike to 15 USD, and from there on some profit taking and consolidation. And so far, this is interesting, we have actually managed to consolidate here a little bit above what's now has become a support level, was previously a resistance, right? Only we broke through it once recently, which was right after the earnings, minus 14% within a day, and then followed by a intraday up move up to 15%, closing above this support line. And that was a strong signal. Also great stop loss fishing maybe from some of the hedge fund managers out there, so possibly wiping out some of those non-believers while keeping on consolidating above this 200 day moving average. And what's interesting here is also now on Friday we had this large green candle up and closing at 11 USD, and this happened on two major events that I covered on the channel. One is the August deliveries, of course, where NIO managed to set lower expectations, and it's now looking to manage to meet or even exceed the Q3 guidance there. And on the other hand, investors always like clarity, and now we have the Model 3 Highland out. It seems like that wasn't perceived as a huge threat to NIO, at least judged by the 7% up on Friday. And so these are the fundamentals that are coming in here on top of what's happening on the chart. So while on these technical charts, there's always a line that you can draw that kind of supports your argument, I don't want to say that this chart is telling us that NIO is going to go up from here, but I'm thinking in probabilities. And I think currently what I just mentioned here with the fundamental data being solid and strong, and on the other hand, the chart consolidating at these levels, is telling me that we are having a rather higher probability that this will go looking upwards and bullish rather than going down. Maybe you also have seen my other video in which I talked about the 180,000 possible deliveries in 2023 and stock prices aligned with that, and I said the bottom line must be around 11 to 12 USD for that. And now we also have a couple of more arguments to make why we could actually see also the macroeconomics and externals fundamentally supporting a higher stock price here. Now, what kind of externals I'm talking about? Obviously, what I keep on preaching here on the channel is watching interest rates and USD strength. I've been talking about hopefully that they are peaking out, meaning that they are going to reverse and roll over and go down. This is a process, so this is not happening overnight, and it's not easy to spot the trajectory and the trend, whether or not we continue to going up or going down. One could argue, it still bounces off the level here, and the trajectory could still be going up from here. That's the case. But it could also be rejected and going down, and that would be fuel for risk assets as well as for emerging market stocks in particular. And what is notable is that on Friday we had this big green spike here in the long dated yields, but also in the short-term dated yields. And while I still would argue that both of these charts look that they are close to rolling over and that we have possibly reached a peak in them, still the yields as well as the USD basket has been spiking up in green, and that would usually mean a outflow out of emerging markets and risk assets, and that didn't happen in the case of NIO on Friday. Instead, we had a huge nice and green 7% plus candle, and this is great news for NIO stock in a sense, because if we would be at a low in the USD or the yields, then one would argue that NIO stock could actually likely reverse and not holding those kind of gains. However, currently we are at a situation where these kind of metrics are elevated and near a peak, and that means that in a case that they are really indeed are going to roll over, they will fuel the rally in NIO stock. And so if you think again in probabilities, once we're near tops and the USD on an RSI level looks kind of overbought here, then at the top, of course, the probability for it to go more up is much less than the probability for it to fall down. At the same time, looking at the NIO stock here a little bit more in detail, you can see that the RSI is actually at quite low levels. So that would indicate that NIO stock should actually start to rebound a little bit. And, this could actually fuel a rally of around 30% more or less to meet this technical resistance here of another downtrend line, given the recent highs of 15 USD. So that is some potential that could be unleashed just by such external macro factors here in my point of view. And that's just an if, but I think the probabilities are skewed towards it. These kind of macro factors are coming into play, then this could help, in my point of view, that the NIO stock valuation will recover more to a normalized level between 3.6 or 5.6 of sales to enterprise value. And that actually means that NIO wouldn't even have to do much more on a fundamental basis, but simply the multiple expansion based on the fact that we get those macro tailwinds should actually help the stock to recover and fuel another rally going up. And coming back to my valuation scenarios, this would put us in scenario 10, at which NIO grows, they will get normalized ASPs, they would get normalized multiples in the valuation, and this could open up a jump from the current levels of around 11 USD more towards a 20 USD valuation of the NIO stock price. Now, as I said, currently those fundamentals and technicals are somewhat in an alignment, and I think the probabilities are currently skewed towards, I just said here in the scenario building. And so if NIO stays on its trajectory there, I think this will be the most likely scenario going forward. But keep in mind that, of course, the shorts are still in the game here. They haven't left the stock yet. And the reason for that is that any weakness in NIO sales and deliveries going forward will kind of diminish their chances at closing on the net losses and making them smaller and smaller. On the other hand, this is also creating an interesting scenario in which the shorts are possibly going to watch out and see what's going to happen, and they may actually get trapped up at some point in time in case that NIO keeps on delivering to its goals and guidance, because at that point in time, if NIO would not show any further weakness on their business fundamentals, then the shorts at some later point in time would have to cover, and at a more expensive price. So I don't think we will get a shorts fueled rally currently, because I think there are still betting quite a bit on the chances that NIO will be showing some weakness and reverse. And in that point in time, the shorts argument would actually be that NIO will have difficulties in refinancing at some point in time. And I think they're still waiting for that. And this is some kind of a spicy situation here, because if we are getting this macro-fueled short-term rally here that I pointed out, and a kind of a normalization in the valuation metrics, and the shorts are staying trapped there, plus at some point the fundamentals have so much improved that they will need to cover at a later point in time, that could really propel the NIO stock further beyond those valuation metrics that I've just shown. But that is not something that I'm personally betting on. This is just a probability, maybe a smaller one, and something just to look forward to in case it happens. But until that, we'll need to fingers crossed and pray that NIO can actually continue to ramped the way that I have outlined so far. But currently, I just want to leave you with that. I think that was already quite a positive view on what's currently happening. And that's just personally how I'm feeling about it currently. And I hope you would agree with that. Let me know in the comments what's your perspective on that. And then thanks for watching and see you in my next videos.